So we're back at the podcast. Welcome, everyone. And today I'm speaking with Amber Bates, a fellow educator here in Beijing. I'm going to turn it over almost immediately, as of course you know, this is us talking about Beijing and education, and ultimately we want to speak a little bit about the current situation, the what are they calling it now to get around the YouTube censors, the beer virus or something to that effect. So Amber, please talk to us. Tell me a little bit about how you got here and what you're doing now and what it's like to be in Beijing.
Yeah, sure. So I first came to Beijing when I was 21. This is back in 2011. A friend of mine, he came up to me, and I remember we were sitting in my backyard, and he came up and he just opens our conversation with, "I'm going to China." And I'm like, "What are you're going to China for what? What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going to be living with a family. I found a company and they pair us with families, and we stay at home and teach their kids, and then we get to experience the culture." I'm like, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything with my life. So yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. And then both of us came to Beijing for a year. And then I went back home, went to school, did what I had to do. And then I came back in 2016. At that point, because I didn't really finish school. Things just kind of kept popping up. And, so when that happens, you kind of have to go through some really, really back doors, and it's not very legal.
Sure, legal. Yeah, I get it. No, you're not the first person to share that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I was with Best Learning, Beile. I was with them for a few years, and it was an interesting experience. I fell in love with teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of teaching do they do? Do they do the kindergarten, and we share obviously an employer, so we have an all-day daycare style kindergarten for kids I get them as young as 2 or
yeah.
And they stay sometimes as long as 6, just before they start real school in China. Is that the kind of stuff Best Learning does, or do they have that more classic periods and classroom?
Yeah, it's more classic. They're pretty much like the extra cram schools that you would see. Kids that are taking classes after school and doing that. We did run a program for we called them pre-K and K kids, which would be the same age as ours. And they would have one day out of the week where they would come all day. I taught a lot of the levels, but I mostly was a high level teacher. We taught kids as old as 15. Lots of different class ages, class ranges, all the way from PK up to what we called G6, which would be the oldest kids. I did that for a few years before they decided to change our contracts.
Yeah.
And they kind of said, "You don't want to sign our contract? That's fine. You're fired."
Oh my God. The Chinese are so abrupt. With the lack of enforcement, they have the labor laws. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
With the lack of enforcement of labor laws and a certain, God, I hate to use the word, but a certain prejudice against foreigners, but they don't feel as obligated to follow their own laws because they are relying on the fact that, many times we don't know about them. I just recently learned that if you're fired, you get severance.
Yeah. The severance pay only, you can only get that if you're on the correct work visa. And it's a friend of mine is going through it right now. She was on the fence about whether to leave her company. Then she had some other trouble with her company, and the company was like, "You know what? That's it. You're done."
Yeah.
So she's going through the entire process of getting that severance.
How long has she been fighting it?
Well, she's just towards the beginning. I love her dearly, but she's not as wise and like knows where like the roads to take for it yet. She hasn't been in China that long.
That's
Yeah.
tough. There's just a certain amount of separation between what the Chinese are willing to do and what the Chinese are supposed to do. And I think
Yeah.
that that can be really tough for somebody who doesn't has never navigated that before, let alone in the U.S. God, my heart goes out to her.
Like I remember like just watching like all these new foreigners when I worked at Best Learning, watching all these new foreigners come in.
Yeah.
And like I had previous knowledge of like a little bit of the culture because I had been here before.
Right.
And I just remember watching these foreigners come in and then immediately realizing the Chinese don't necessarily take their own advice. And then after 2 months they would turn around and they would get fed up with the company and they would leave, and either with the company or with China.
Yeah, and that unfortunately earns in general all Westerners this reputation of being, lazy or flighty or whatever the Chinese decide to label you after you've stood there for a couple of months with your mouth open, absolutely unable to understand and nobody's helping you, right? I wish I'd learned more of the language before I came here, and I don't even know as much as you, but I certainly wish I had gotten more practical advice, and I did not. I got a lot of things will be good, Beijing's a wonderful town, and those are all objectively true, but it's
hard.
Our current and I guess you're soon to be former boss, because you are moving on to something else, and please talk about that, has this habit of mentioning the Chinese mind, which is the only place I've ever heard it, but it's not apparently an uncommon phrase, and most Chinese don't want to talk about it. But she has no problem using that when she doesn't want to explain something. Yeah, when she doesn't want to explain something to you.
My husband does that.
Does he?
My husband does that. when I got him backed into a corner with logic. He's like, well, this is just how the Chinese think. You don't need to understand it.
Just do it. I was kind of lamenting the other day, and this is really a little bit, let me go the long way around the barn here, about how Americans are responding to, and we'll talk about the virus later, but Americans are responding to the virus. Kept having this image of jumpy horses. This idea that if you go boo to a horse, he's liable to kick you to death. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I was really concerned, because I thought people are really flying. Both our politicians and the people are really coming off the deep end with a lot of stuff. Either it's extreme left or extreme, it doesn't really matter. Everybody seems to be really panicked. There's very few calm voices. And so I was really concerned about that. And then I thought, you know what? I remembered that all these people that are crying about rights and all these people, et cetera, it's just an American thing to question, and it's not a Chinese thing.
Yeah.
Unless they're really like actually threatened. But Americans are like, why should I sit on that seat on the bus? Or why can't Americans are all about why? I think maybe more than any other nation. So it's just kind of funny to see that clash of culture. I know exactly what you're talking about, that clash of culture. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off.
No. It's all good.
I've been directly thinking about that attitude that causes most Americans who come to China to go, well, what?
Yeah, I had a class. When I worked at Best Learning. Mm-hmm. It was a G2 class, so they were around 8-9 years old. Uh-huh. And I remember this boy. He was just like, I tried to explain to them, because every time I would ask them a question, try to get them thinking critically, and he would reply with something, and I would say, well, okay, why is that? And he would come back and he's like, there's no why. Everything doesn't have to have a why. And I'm like, well, yeah, kind of. Kind of there does. And I remember going back and forth with this kid. And I'm like, yeah, darling, not everybody thinks the same way that your culture teaches you to think. This is why you're learning English from a foreigner. Yeah. You're learning how to adapt your thinking to become more open. Your mom and dad didn't send you here just to learn the language. If they wanted to send you to learn the language, they would send you to an all Chinese thing where they taught English.
Yeah, or bought you some tapes. Yeah, that's very interesting. I've not run directly into that in my classes, but I certainly have in culture, being
Yeah.
out and about, and certainly being in an employee-employer relationship, which I'm not used to. I worked for myself back in the States.
Right.
Being in a situation where, if I don't jump fast enough, people are like, "What's the matter with you?" I'm like, well, first you're going to tell me why I'm doing this, and I've held out, and honestly, I think it's actually become something they've just let go, as far as I'm concerned. As long as I produce quality, I think maybe they sometimes will let it go, especially now with Anyway, so are you? So you're moving on. You're moving on to another opportunity.
I am. I own a school with my husband in his hometown.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And his hometown is where?
His hometown is called Laishui. It's in Hebei province. Like if we took a car, it's about an hour and a half drive from Beijing.
Okay. So this side of Hubei, not too close to Wuhan.
Oh no. It's more closer to Beijing. Yeah, it's only about 160 kilometers. I may be wrong, but it's around that range. Not very far.
Well, that sounds exciting. So are you going to do the same kind of school, or do you have something else in mind?
Well, right now, what we're doing, because we have about 25 kids that have signed up, and we've got a whole bunch that are just waiting for us to reopen in September when I move back.
I guess the current situation got in the way of you holding on until our current boss could find somebody to replace you.
This is the third time.
Oh my gosh.
This is the third time. I was originally supposed to leave last August when my contract was up.
And I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
And she asked me to stay on, and I agreed because we hadn't really opened the school at that time. So we're like, okay, let's hang on. We'll be able to save more money.
Right.
And then I was going to leave. I told her I'll stay until December until you guys get somebody.
Jesus.
And then that time came. Yeah. And then she asked me to hang on again.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks, I said, I can give you a few more weeks. I have to go back. We're getting everything started.
Yeah.
And then she messaged, and then the situation happened.
Yeah.
And she's like, we need you to move to Fanzhuang.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So did you actually move?
I moved, yeah. Yeah, I used to live in Jiamen West on Line 4 and Line 10.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Way over there. Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm in Songjiazhuang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's quite nice because like I'm right near to the school. Like I'm 2 kilometers away.
Yeah.
So,
I'm about 1.5. So
nice.
It's a really easy either walk or a quick scooter ride. Normally it's a quick scooter ride because I'm always late getting out the door. So then hopefully this will end soon. There's lots of talk about getting people back in schools and that kind of stuff.
I was, because like I keep looking at, like, they keep putting out maps of China, and it tells you like what regions are already back in school and what regions have announced dates.
Right.
Only Beijing and Wuhan haven't announced anything. Everybody has announced or is already back in school. So Beijing is going to be the last one to do it. Even Wuhan is going to be before Beijing.
I think so, and I think that doesn't have anything to do with, although the disease, I think that has to do with it's Beijing. They're much more high profile, for those of you back in the States listening to this, they're much more high profile than DC. They are the government.
I think it's another thing too of like making the capital wait because it's the capital, making sure that like everything else, because Beijing it's a hard city to lock down. You've got so many migrant workers.
By and large, the largest foreign population. So it's just one of those things where people who stayed, they got them out fairly quickly, most of them that left first from Wuhan and then the U.S. did a pretty good job of pulling our citizens home.
Yeah, they did.
They did that fairly quickly. I was surprised by that.
I think they reacted within like a few weeks.
Yeah, there's a timeline that looks pretty amazing now that I see it in retrospect, because at the time I didn't know what the heck was going on in the U.S. Everybody was like, "What?" But apparently they'd heard about it. The White House had heard about it, and then they were briefed by the military, and that very day they formed a panel, right? The virus panel, and then which he got in a lot of trouble for. Trump banned flight entrance to the United States.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "You racist!" And I was like, I was like, okay, hopefully this will all blow over, and we'll start to see this. But apparently that all happened like within 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's not like there was a bunch of people standing around with their fingers in their noses. It was much more rapid than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'll be fair and say that I too was wondering, where is our government? And apparently they were doing all kinds of stuff they weren't telling anybody about. So were you scared when it first came out?
Like when we first started getting reports that like a lot of people in Wuhan were getting sick and then they were going to lock down the city, I'm like, okay, where is this going to go? It's kind of like you're looking at it through like different colored glasses. You're like, nah, this is too much out of science fiction.
Yeah.
Science fiction just doesn't happen as fast. Yeah.
Usually we get the lead up to the spread of the disease. What is that movie?
Yeah.
Pandemic or whatever the movie is with Gwyneth Paltrow or whatever. And that actually, takes the time to trace the way but when we finally heard of it, at least when I finally heard of it, it was happening. Right?
Yeah.
They were like, okay, ouch. And then all kinds of other stuff came out about people trying to warn them months before, blah, blah, blah. All this craziness that just always follows this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, God, yeah, it was pretty weird. I'm not sure I ever got scared. I'm a little old to get scared. You know what I mean? I feel like I've seen some things, and this was unusual, but it didn't scare me. But for a moment, I was like, gosh, should I go home? And I'm glad I didn't. That
was a thought of my own. I had actually like talked to my dad because we were talking, and he's like, you have to figure out what you're gonna do. If you come home, you'll have a space. But my only thing was my husband. Could I get him a visa that quick? And the answer was most likely no.
Right.
So I'm like, well, let's wait. Let's keep it off for a while. They could lock it down. Maybe that'll be it. And then it'll slowly taper off.
And then it's like a bomb in a box. All of a sudden, it just exploded in Wuhan.
Yeah.
And they had a horrible time of it. I feel awful for those people. I wish I'd heard more from foreigners out of Wuhan, because there were a few. And I wish I'd heard more about what they were actually experiencing. But the one I saw was like, so she goes to her corner store and there's not a lot of food, and I'm like, that's happening here in Beijing. So
yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what
happened here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is.
Towards the beginning.
Yes, and then it almost immediately seemed to go away, because I was in the store just the other day. This is 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and it was over. There was never any. I never saw the store out of toilet paper, and that really struck me because people went crazy. And now they're not letting Walmart sell seeds because it's, quote, non-essential. And I'm like, okay, come on.
Yeah, they started quarantining like off parts of the stores, only like essential items. My mom works for Walmart.
You would know better than I, but I read in the news they were.
They've started quarantining parts of the stores off.
That's
only like food and essential things. I've heard that they're like clothing is not really that essential, so they kind of section that off.
Well, that's kind of a short-term thought, isn't it? I mean, I would love to read the logic behind that, right? Something that somebody wrote down and said, here's what we need to be doing in our big box stores.
Right.
You know, and then having them actually do it. I'd love to read the logic on that because I don't understand it. I'm like, just keep trying to get stuff to people and explain as you go. But maybe that's why I'm not president of the United States or head of Congress or whatever. You know, I mean, I would love to find out the logic. So what are the plans then? You're kind of stuck with us for a while then, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, until then, yeah, as long as like things keep going, because like right now for my school, we're just giving free classes.
Yeah.
Actually, later on, I have a class, and it's me either teaching the kids like some basic words. We did like different toys and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Or me reading a story to them. But it's all free right now because they're like, I can't see like the same thing with like our boss. Our boss is having a very hard time right now with parents.
Yeah.
You know, because of fees and things like that.
It's pretty weird the way she's handling it. I guess for the most part, I've been really lucky in that they've left me alone because apparently my parents are very happy. So
nice.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because I'm doing things. Well, honestly, I'm not doing anything different than anybody else. Although I will say there are a couple of us that are playing 52 pickup because they've never done this before in any form. So that it took them longer to get on board. And unfortunately, the way the Chinese handle that is, okay, here's this thing that we're going to do now. Go do it. Bye. There's no training.
Yeah, figure it out. Figure it out. And if we're not happy.
Yeah, we should have had two.
Well,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, yeah, exactly. Oh, and by the way, don't screw up, you know.
I know.
And I feel awful for them. And it would have been nice to hold 2 or 3 mandatory meetings to make it easier for these poor guys. I feel awful for them. But anyway, I've been lucky in that they've not given me a hard time. So what do you think about the way the virus has been handled either here in China or in the US? Or talk to us a little bit about what you think about that.
Okay, so this is a bit, like I find it kind of like a double-edged sword because there are a lot of people, especially like back in the States, that think that this hasn't been handled appropriately here in China because it eventually got out.
It did, yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Oh, that it's China's fault. This idea that it's China's fault.
Yeah, this is a pandemic. Yeah. I think I follow a guy on Weibo. He's also on YouTube, and he's called the Hot Pot King. Yeah. And he does a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And he did one specifically on the timeline of COVID-19. Yeah. From the first known cases up until it started, up until it started going out.
Yeah.
And he focuses it basically on China. And when you compare that with other outbreaks, I think China did act more quicker than like with SARS.
I also think, however, a lot of, and forgive me if this rubs you the wrong way, but I think the government got in the way. I think if they'd let the medical.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that like everything can be done quicker.
Yeah.
Everything can be done. There can always be improvements for stuff.
Yeah.
But I think part of having the type of government that there is here, this government is in every single facet of life.
Yeah.
It's every little part they have control in.
Yeah.
So definitely if medical had been left alone, absolutely it would have been done much faster.
Yeah. If they had that autonomy, I think that one of the great things that's happening, I can't remember the name of the website, but this guy came up with a completely outside the box actual medical treatment for people with existing COVID, which means that he can slow down or eliminate the disease. And basically it just, he explained it in such a great way. He said, basically it just, you've seen pictures of it. It's called a coronavirus because it looks like a crown, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, those little crowns, actually, those little sticky outy points, he didn't say that. He did say those little points that stick out are, I sound like Ocasio-Cortez. At the very tippy top, basically he found a way to blunt those so that they can't hold on. Yeah, so it's in testing now, apparently.
Nice.
And this is a private organization in San Francisco, which I was surprised by. I don't know why. So I was like, really? That sounds like something that had come out of the. But then I thought, well, where else would it come out of? It was really interesting, and it sounded really exciting, and it reminded me that Americans are doers, and we have a tendency to just go headlong,
Yeah.
into things. But that's what we are, at least as far as our economic system and our culture is designed. It would be nice if that had been allowed to happen here in China. I think that we wouldn't have had the all the nonsense. And so your husband is Chinese? Is he? He's from Hubei? You say?
From Hebei.
Hebei. Oh.
Yeah, Hebei surrounds Beijing.
Yes.
In the center, then Tianjin in the southeast.
Right.
And then Hebei surrounds the rest of Beijing.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was thinking Hubei, and I'm an idiot.
No, it's okay.
That's why I mentioned Wuhan earlier.
A lot of people get it mixed up. Even
it's easy to do if you're just saying it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you look at it and you wouldn't make that mistake. But I was not listening well. I apologize.
No, don't worry about it.
And so you're going to start this school.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any plans to go back to the U.S. at all anytime soon? Or obviously,
yes.
Considering.
The original plan was to go back in August. For a while. My sister was supposed to be getting married. So we don't know what's happening right now. I haven't really talked those details out with my sister yet.
Yeah.
But eventually we will go back. It's been a few years since I've been back. It's been about 2 years. So I'm due for a visit back.
Yeah.
My husband and I went out last week, maybe last Saturday, and we were just walking around. It was nice to get out.
Yeah.
And we were walking around, and like Beijing is like China. I mean, it's not just Beijing that does this. It's probably all over China.
Mm-hmm.
We were just watching this little old lady cutting hair on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like the little things. Like I love walking around the hutongs.
Yes. Yeah, those are interesting.
And like the old village areas.
Yeah.
Because it's like it brings you, like it levels you into like, okay, yeah, I'm in this country. This is the culture around me. This is cool.
Yeah, it does help. It also helps, believe it or not, for me, and as odd as that is, because I'm in love with my own language. I love the English language.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to be able to study Shakespeare. But it's interesting to me to go out and see, every once in a while, go out and see how much more I understand.
Right.
Contextually, I understand a lot. But just listening to conversations on the street,
yeah,
and that awesome accent, that Beijing R accent, and you just go, wow, this is, I might as well be, I have no idea. And then sometimes, every once in a while, I understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, it really changes my attitude, because I have what I call, when I early came on here, I have Chinese days where China is not my favorite place. And,
yeah, we all have those. Have those.
I think every Westerner doesn't, and I'm sure every Chinese person does, but they don't call them that. So
yeah, sometimes I'll walk around the house and I'm just like, ugh. They do this. It's like this here. And my husband's like, I'm just going to leave you alone today.
That's the smart move, I guess, right? I completely understand that, and I think any Westerner does. And it's always fun to get people to talk about that, because they all have a different perspective on the things they don't understand and will never understand about the Chinese. Forgive me. The Chinese mind. So it's one of those things where I don't think I'll ever get past that, because I'm not gonna. First of all, I can't be here long enough to really, Mark has been in Asia since he was pretty much out of college. you know,
Yeah.
and so he's got a whole different perspective, which I think is really interesting.
Hmm.
And yet he still in his heart is, you know, that kid from Minnesota. So there's
Right.
this interesting balance that he's created for himself that I'm not sure I'll ever be able to. As a matter of fact, I'm starting Chinese lessons again on Monday, so we'll see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
that'll be okay. There's an HSK class which works towards the testing, and I think if I can get like one of those ratings, I'll feel like I know something now. Maybe I need to keep going because before it's all been catch as catch can, you know.
Right.
Asking where the bathroom is and bring me a plate of rice and how much does that cost, and you know, bring me a bottle of beer, kind of stuff. So
yeah, I think for the most part, like I think like Chinese can be easy to catch on to.
Mhm.
Yeah, just as long as you're like you have to challenge yourself not to use English, and I think that's a big thing for a lot of foreigners.
There's a kind of an axiom that says that if you end up with a Chinese partner, that your language improves exponentially. Has that happened to you?
A little.
Yeah.
My husband's English, like his English is okay. Like when I first met him,
Uh-huh.
we were messaging back and forth, and he goes, "Wait a minute, are you a foreigner?" And he'd said this all in Chinese. I go, "Yes."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
my English sucks."
I think all Chinese people think that, and they're actually much better at it than they give themselves credit for.
And like his English is much better now.
Yeah.
But really, most of what we say is Chinese at home. The
That's
only
good.
time we
That's
really switch into English is when we're fighting.
awesome. Kind of like the kids in school.
Yeah. We switch to English when we're fighting.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Well, and of course, that whole center of actually processing probably just shuts off when you're angry. I know that sometimes I just have to watch an American movie. I don't care if I've seen it before. I can't stand any more Chinese media. Can't take it.
Yeah. Well, like for me, my pet peeve is when I want to watch a movie and I find the perfect movie to watch and I opened it and they subbed it into Chinese.
No, that's
I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, I found the movie I've been looking for. Oh, the audio's in Chinese.
Yeah.
Not what I wanted.
That happened when I first got here. I saw Sound of Music in Chinese. All the songs were in English, and all the dialogue was in Chinese. It was absolutely hilarious, especially when you're looking for, I don't know, something that feeds your. I hesitate to say soul, but I think you know what I mean. This idea,
like sense of home.
Yeah, sense of home, maybe even sense of self. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're losing touch with, I don't know what. I just know that there's times when I can't take it anymore. I can't do this anymore, and that usually lasts for the length of the movie, and then I'm good to go. But
yeah.
So, well, okay. So now after this, then you're going to be in Hebei. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for pronouncing that right. And you'll be teaching a school. And did you say maybe you said this and I didn't hear it? Are you going to be teaching a school like our current kindergarten, or more like BEST or EF?
It's kind of like BEST and EF, because right now, because in the Chinese culture, kids start their kids very early for kindergartens.
Yes.
They just keep them in the same kindergarten until they reach the age until they can move on. Like all the kids in Laishui is a very, very small city. Everybody knows everybody. So one bad reputation just goes and it spreads like wildfire through the city. Yeah. So everyone, all the kids are already in a kindergarten. So we were like, well, what else can we do besides trying to get them to come over to us? Do we have the facility, the time? Do we have all of this to be able to give them full days? And we're like, no, not right now. So the only other thing we could do was do what EF and Best Learning are doing, is give them little extra classes. Eventually, I think we'll switch over. But right now it's just me. And we already have 3 classes going. and I can't do, like, there's no manpower. The manpower isn't enough right now to do that many classes for full days. So
I get you. Have you hired Chinese teachers as well?
yeah, I have a Chinese teacher. She actually, her son comes to our classes. So we kind of did like a little trade-off, and then like we'll try to give her a little something every month. Her English is okay. It's not wonderful. But she does really, really good in the classes. We have some kids that have a little trouble, and she does very good with them.
Okay, good. Yeah, I miss my teachers, honestly.
Yeah.
I wish they'd visit my class, but she's not paying them, so they're like, we got to go do other stuff. We're going to take care of our husbands, et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, I have, for our current company, I have my TA in on classes, and she helps me out.
Well, who's your TA though?
Penny.
Yeah. See, so Penny's she's been around forever.
Yeah,
and so she probably may have been kept. And the same is with what's her face, the new site manager.
Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy's in on Francis's classes too.
Yes, which is weird to me, because if anybody needs a Chinese teacher to tell their kids to shut up, it's us in the lower levels. But I'm whining at this point. I control my kids.
Well, I think like it was my parents. It was the parents in the class that had suggested it.
Yeah.
We were originally, because the parents were like, we don't have anybody to babysit the kids. We can't be with our kids the entire day at home.
There is that, yeah, which is different. My parents have been home and helped a lot. I commented the other day, you saw on WeChat that I think the language skills of my children have just leaped beyond any other class, and not because these kids are any smarter than, say, somebody like Molly, who's wicked smart, and all of those other kids that are so bright, but because they've had the opportunity to get the individual attention from both me and their parents in a way that they haven't before, on top of which the FaceTime has increased. We spend more actual time with our students now than we ever.
No, I know. No, I have one girl, Amy H. Like my kids, like some of them have really improved, and some have kind of gone down because they don't really get enough exposure outside of class, even though I try to, push the parents to kind of do that, but you can only make someone do so much.
Yes, that's true. I do think I have a lot of parents who speak English. Whether it's perfect or not, it really does make a difference. This online thing, how have you felt about that?
I don't mind it. I have some kids that have adapted lovely to it.
Yeah.
They've had no problem. Yes. Like I mentioned, Amy H.
Yeah.
Like her English has shot up. Her mom spends a lot of time with her, and it's really, really nice because she's the youngest in the class.
Yes. Oh, Amy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that girl.
Yeah, she's the youngest in the class, and her ability is just shot up.
Yeah, her mom, she was in my class to start with this year. And her mom said, this is too low for her. We need to move her. So they moved her into the next level, and then they moved her into your level.
Yeah.
They just like pushed her straight up. She had a problem with her eyes and recently got the glasses. I love Amy. She's a sweetheart. She's a great student. Yeah, and her mom and I talked a lot because I tutored her for a little while, and even that wasn't enough. She wanted her kid to be really pushed to learn English as rapidly as possible. So I'm glad she's with you. That's good.
I talk with Amy or her mom almost every day.
Yeah.
Even outside of class.
Yeah.
I've got a few parents that'll message me.
Yeah, her mom's really good about that. She keeps in contact with whatever teacher she's working with. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And she's a really great person too. I like her mom.
Yeah. Like I found when I started with this class, like I found out she was a little like a tiger mom. A little. Come on. She moved her kid 3 levels in grades. But
in 1 year. She's a tiger mom for sure. Yeah. No,
but like I think like this online learning has really, really like benefited both the children and the parents in a small
Yeah.
way, because like even like her mom will sometimes talk with me and be like, she has, Fridays are her playtime. She doesn't do homework. We let her play the entire day.
Oh, that's
Let
cool.
her relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen growth in a lot of things, a lot of kids, a lot of parents, and that's really, really cool to see.
For me, it heightened parents who didn't believe them when I told them their kids were misbehaving. They're like, "Well, he doesn't
Yeah.
do that at home." And now all of a sudden they're like, literally, I got a kid. They were like, "Well, no, Alex is just a kind of a special kid." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll say." And when so now he literally is throwing tantrums and I teach him individually because of it. I finally got him back into the large class, but I go back to him once a day and work on his English because he's not lazy. He's just 3. I mean, 4. What do you do?
Yeah.
You couldn't have made me do anything at 4. So, but he throws tantrums because his parents have allowed him to do that kind of crying nonsense. His sister, however, is constantly trying to sneak into the room. I think she wants to have a class. You know what I mean? She seems to be the thirsty one.
I have a kid. Her brother joins in the class sometime. He was in our company a few years ago. He's a little older now. He graduated. Like I personally don't care. It's not like I can stop him from joining in the class, but it's also nice to have like the younger kids see that there's an older kid sitting in with us.
Yeah.
And like seeing how the older kid reacts.
And behaves, maybe.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. I also have a kid that throws tantrums.
I just shut him off.
Nathan.
Does Nathan do that?
Yes, he does. They can't get him to sit down for a class.
Oh, boy.
He has his good days and he has his bad days.
Well, that was true when he was in class. So I can imagine that it's probably he feels a little freer to just like, screw you, I want to play with my trucks, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. He sat there one class with a phone and he watched cartoons all during class.
This is what Alex does. He starts doing something else, right? We're having a conversation and he does that thing when you try to teach them a phrase in English. You'll say, spring, it is spring in Beijing. And he'll just go, Beijing.
Yeah.
That last word thing, because he's not listening. All he heard was a word he recognized. And so that's what, and he does that throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, Alex, you need to say all the words. And then the tantrum starts because now he actually has to focus.
Right.
He doesn't want to focus. Again, they're kids. So it used to kind of make me angry. I'm like, God, my mother would have slapped me in front of people,
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes if they do that when they're not, because obviously the Chinese are much more socially demure in that respect. But I wonder if behind the scenes they don't do that, because I see kids improve. Not Alex so much, but I see kids improve, and I seem to be able to tell sometimes that they're actually disciplining.
Like the Chinese culture is a lot different than ours is when we compare. How like bringing up the kids. People talk about like the terms little emperor, little empress.
Yeah, true.
And that's very, very much true.
Well, you can't blame them, considering that so many people died in just the last 200 years. It's got to be part of the culture. How could it not be? Not that it's right or wrong, just that, of course they baby their children. Of course they want them to succeed. And furthermore, there's that whole part of, especially for boys, what a lot of pressure to have to support, be the support structure for their parents when they get older.
Yeah.
I think that might be changing some because parents are earning quite a bit of money now, but at least our parents are. But that's still got to be a real burden, in a way.
Right. But like the Chinese, they don't have, like in the States, we have like Social Security and stuff like that. The Chinese don't have that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So whatever money you save up during your time working, that's what you have after you retire. You're mandatory retired at a certain age.
We do have a couple of social pension things, but that's usually for specific situations. It's not a general, you retire, you get a paycheck. It's one of those things where as small as it may be in the United States, one of the reasons it may be so small is because it's, spread over everybody. And which is, again, I'm not right or wrong, doesn't really come into it at this point. It's just definitely different the way that the Chinese raise their children and are willing to, because I had a mother, I got this kid, Max, and he's a great kid. And he's also a terror in class. And by great, I don't mean like the kind of kid you'd want to have behave himself. He's the kind of kid, he's that little Dennis the Menace, a little Chinese Dennis the Menace. And he's unbelievably full of energy and a ridiculously impossible to control. And I have tried and tried and tried. And he's now, when he's in class under the supervision of his grandmother, who he has no problem hitting, which I said, Max, if you don't stop hitting, I'm going to kick you out of my class and you'll never see me again. And it actually, which is a really harsh thing to say, but he hit her, for heaven's sakes. So that kind of got grandma on my side, believe it or not, because she then wrote me up, and all that to tell this. Max, I said, Max needs to study his work more. She said, yes, it's very hard for him. I said, well, yeah, because he never studies it. And she says, well, we don't want to break his spirit. And I thought, yes, I do. I do want to break that spirit. I want him to see that he can't behave that way all the time.
Right.
He can do whatever he wants when he's not in my classroom, which is my whole point, right? I'm the alpha in the classroom, which is a big deal at our level because we're not really teaching them anything at all. I'm lucky that I can. I'm just teaching them how to sit down and shut up, so that when they get to you or the middle level or whatever, they're not as crazy as they started out.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. There are some kids I can't change, like Elvin. I don't know if you've ever met Elvin, but yikes. And, and then there's Nathan, what boy, he, and then there's all kinds of kids that, you expect to be, like Carl apparently is turning into a bit of a troublemaker. So
yeah, Carl is a little bit of like his thing is like him and Molly, they're too old. They're too old. They're the oldest in the class.
Carl's too big too. He clearly is just so much bigger than everybody around it.
Yeah. When I first joined this class to teach them, I spent that entire week because these kids were very fun.
There's
very fun. I spent the first week just trying to implement, okay, this is how your class was run before, but I'm gonna be starting this differently. And this is what I expect from you guys. We can have fun, we can do what you guys like, but don't step out of line. And him and Molly were the hardest ones to get through with that. Yeah,
and Molly would be. I would expect that of her. Carl, I remember, is just a big doofy kid who cried at Disney films if they were too dark. So I never really thought of him as being a kid that would misbehave. But apparently, as they get older, obviously they get actual personalities, and that are not something you can change, but something you have to persuade.
Yeah.
And I can literally, I have the luxury, and if you forgive me, the burden, it's really not a burden. I don't look at it that way. But I have the luxury of being able to form them to a certain extent into, this is not how you behave here.
Yeah.
Later when we go and play, I don't care what you do. The Chinese teachers will take care of you there. But you talk again in my class and you don't get a sticker for the day. Or you're going to go.
Oh, no, that's how I was with my baby class. I had a little boy. And a little boy, his name was Ron.
Yeah.
And this kid from day one was this kid was just, he had too much energy. He didn't know how to spend it. And I remember one of the ways, he ended up calming down a lot. And I remember this one look from him. He had come back on a Monday from the weekend, and I called him over to me. I go, how are you? And ask him all different questions.
Yeah.
I said, I missed you.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand what I said, so I repeated it in Chinese.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and then he hugged me, and then that was the start of the change.
Good for you. You got it. That's good.
Yeah. And I remember that look, no one's ever said that to me. And Yeah, it was something. It was something.
I think
But like,
there's a definite difference. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's it. Good for you. That's a great story. That's a win. That's a teacher win.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really
So
cool.
like, yeah, like that class. We also had some other kids that we had one. His name is Max. Oh gosh,
I'm
this
gonna
kid.
hold on one second. There's something going on
Sure,
here.
sure, sure.
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
That'll be edited out. His name was Max.
Yeah, and this kid was. It didn't matter what you did. He just cried.
Cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I have so many videos on my phone of him crying because
Yeah,
what I would do is I would tape the video.
yeah.
I would tape the video and say, I'm gonna send this to mommy. I'm gonna show mommy you're crying. Do you want mommy to be sad? Yeah, and eventually he would calm down. So like I never deleted them. So now I've got like all these different videos of like his crying face going,
Yeah, those are awesome. Honestly, I had a couple. Of course, I think in baby classes, obviously you have more kids come in, and it takes that as much as 2 weeks for them
Yeah,
just to stop crying. And I had a kid
right.
named a pair of twins, Leandro and Lorena, who I helped name, which is I'm so uncomfortable doing that. And and they're not bad kids, except that they've never been made to do anything. You know what I mean? They've just been
Hmm.
literally running, and they're not any younger than anybody else. Because I got a 2-year-old in there, and I got a kid who started when she had just turned 3, whose
Yeah.
name is Vicky, who is my best student. So it doesn't really, as far as actual kids go, they're not any different in age. They've just never been made to do a thing. So
Yeah.
online, I've been able to get the mom who's now seeing that they're just goofy. They're always trying to be silly and cute because they are cute, and and they know it. And so I slowly but surely have gotten them to not be cute when we're practicing things.
Hmm.
However, Lorena, the little girl, who is the smarter of the two, or at least the more, I don't know, teachable, maybe.
Hmm.
She, if I speak crossly to her, like I'm like, Lorena, stop it. We are working. She'll shut down and give me that look and the waggy head and the whole the whole thing. You know what I mean? And I was just like, oh my god, what? Well, hello, the real Lorena. So she's a sweet kid, and if you keep her entertained, she'll do whatever you want her to do.
Hmm.
But I've been having my kids recite English, several sentences at once, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's difficult for them, and they have to work at it, and their parents have been helping them do that. And Lorena just will not stand still. She literally dances around while she does it, and she's goofy, and you can't hear part of it. And I'm not sure how to address that with her mother because her mother thinks it's cute, and Leandro hates it. So he's like, he's like, oh God, Leandro, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. I got off on my kids again. I talk about them too much sometimes when I get the opportunity.
Oh no, I do the same. I do the same.
Yeah.
Like that when I video with my dad, we try to talk almost every day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like cause like we did this even before like the virus got to the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would check up on me and check up on my husband, see how things were going.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and now it's like because like things are over there, you know, like he works for a hotel.
Oh,
Um, so like they're the essential workers, hotel, yeah,
oh,
grocery shops and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're still going out. So it's really nice to get like caught up with him still and like making sure that he's okay. Yeah, my mom's.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what a great thing. I mean, that's
Yeah,
and you get that on the ground perspective too. That a lot of people maybe don't get in terms of what's going on in the U.S.
Yeah, well, like I recently just got something that would allow me to look at Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and like it's been years since I've been on Facebook.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And like I log on and I'm like, what am I looking at? What is going on?
There's a lot of anger out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, both sides. Crazy. So you just what did you do? Just purchase a VPN or something?
Yeah, my dad got me set up with one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which one do you use?
Nord.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm Express.
I recently I joined a group that does like coronavirus updates and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The things that people post, I'm like someone had posted about like the wet markets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're like, oh, they're flouting the rules, saying that they should be closed and stuff like this. And then they started going off about, like the CCP and how life is. And I'm like, you don't understand. You don't understand. It's different to read about like the type of government that they have here and to actually experience it. It's not as free as you think it is. It's not all unicorns and rainbows.
Well, the other side is, however, too, that one of the reasons I came is because the only China I knew is the one where everybody wore Mao suits and only Nixon could go. One of the reasons I came was I got to know what's going on there. God, what's China like? Because literally, swear to God, this is me, mindset, Mao suits, Nixon, okay? The last thing I remember hearing anything about China is that only Nixon could go to China. Everybody wore Mao suits because that's what we saw on TV, and this is the 1970s. Everything after that, China's evil. Anyway, I'm sorry. I have a tendency to talk too much. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
Anyway, so
like I get on my husband all the time for this. He will come up to me and say something that is a news. Like there was last week there was something going around. An old parent of a student of mine, they actually messaged me and they said, the U.S. has called everybody back. Are you going back or are you staying? And I'm like, wait, what? So I'm like, and I checked on the embassy's website because that would be where it would be posted. The only thing that was there was the level 4 thing, which does say, if you do not feel safe where you are, come back.
Yeah.
But I'm like, nope, there's nothing here. And then my husband got he came up to me and he was really, really sad and he hugged me and he goes, what are we going to do? Your country has called you to go back. I'm like, okay, sweetie, listen, you need to understand that there are just some things that governments all over the world, no government is exempt from this, that will make up to tell their people about something. All governments do it. No government is safe from it. I don't think we have as much of it as in the US. But then I think that's more my patriotism. And it can't be that bad. And I told my husband, I go, there are just some things that you hear that might not necessarily be true, and before you get all emotional, come and ask me. Don't start worrying yourself. If the US had given this order, I would know about it. I wouldn't be last to know about it.
Right. Clearly a rumor.
Yeah.
Which is why I also have, and this is a little bit off topic, but not really, I don't know anybody with the virus. None of my parents, none of their parents have it.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this virus again? Because it seems like everybody has shut the world down for something I have no evidence of except what I hear.
Right. Well, I just got news the other day. I saw on Facebook a girl that I worked with back in Clifton Park, New York. Her father passed away. And
from the virus?
Yeah, they said it was from the virus.
Wow. Well, there's that whole conspiracy theory that that they're labeling anybody who dies as though they
Yeah,
died.
my dad had mentioned that. They said that like everybody is such in a scare now that they're labeling any death a COVID death, any of them, lung cancer, and it's a COVID death.
Well, and part of it actually, the part that made it seem real was that, and I'm not even sure it's not, I don't know. See, that's the thing. That's what's driving me nuts about this nonsense. But they were saying they were testing bodies after death.
Yeah.
Like, is this what the testing kits they should be using on live? I just couldn't figure it out. And so if you showed up with COVID, even if you died from, say, having your head blown off, that you were now a COVID death.
We don't know. We don't know the full scale.
Yeah, exactly right.
I've seen like there's a lot of anger from like other people because of this, because like they think, all these other countries are getting hit so hard. How is it possible that you guys didn't have this many? It's not possible.
Yeah, there is that part of it too, and again, this has more to do with the fact that China just isn't going to be transparent about this.
It's not only China, like a lot of countries that like have done this in the past. Like I've seen like studies and stuff that have been found in like news reports, actually back during H1N1. It did not start in the US, but that was where the cases were found. They kept underreporting the deaths, and then later they came clean. It's been really interesting to see like the difference in reactions. It's been really fun, like just like throwing ideas back and forth and like talking about different things.
Good, yeah, absolutely. We forget. I know that I have that there are people that care about what people in other countries that are from their country think, and I thought, if nothing else, my family will like this.
Right.
But seriously, it's being listened to, and people are finding it very interesting. So yes, thank you very much, and take care of yourself. And I'm sure I'll see you around eventually, because there's talk about us going back to school in May. So.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't think it's necessarily going to be us. I think I think we're probably looking at maybe June.
That's possible, yeah, and also they might throw colleges and universities back first.
Yeah. I think like what I've seen from like maps and like dates from other provinces is it's been 12th graders and 9th graders going back first, because they're the ones with the tests. We will see what happens. It's a waiting game right now.
I'm with Amber Bates, and she's a fellow educator here in Beijing. Thank you so very much, Amber. This was educating, edifying, and a true joy. Thank you very much for consenting to talk with me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.